One of the fascinating parts of this journey has been that we've convened 17 commissioners, the bulk of whom have individual reputations, acquired in different aspects of life, in different parts of the world. But very few of us have a deep understanding of the marine biology to start with. And so our perspective has been shaped largely by governance, and we've convened, and in a very short space of time, were convinced and took collective responsibility for the work of the Commission. The one issue that we didn't need much convincing of is the fact that, as Fua said, those black tears of the ocean are indeed there. The world needs to respond to the absence of governance right now. The world needs to respond to the tragedy of the commons. And the problem about so much of the work of the Global Ocean Commission is that it's out of sight of most of us. The first of these is that there's a driving demand for resources. And this applies to what we need by way of minerals and energy, by what we need in the form of genetic materials for pharmaceuticals, and also what we need by way of living marine resources to feed our demand for protein. The second driver of decline is technology. Fishing on the high seas, even in the future, the idea of drilling the seabed of the high seas. Previously, all of this was out of reach. Technology didn't allow people to get there. Technology opened the high seas, and so the decline is a consequence of that. Thirdly, we are very aware of the decline in fish stocks. It impacts, and there's a new report. One of the scientists from Somerville, Alex Rogers, is here with us, and they've done some amazing work that draws attention to the kind of fish stocks removed from the high seas and the impact then on coastal communities as a result of the transient nature of the species. The fourth driver of change is that combination of climate change, biodiversity, and habitat loss. It's an issue that we know of terrestrially, but it impacts very directly because of the responsibility and the role of the ocean to cleanse the air we breathe and to provide a new oxygen for us. And then, of course, overarching all of this is the fact that we are afflicted by weak high seas governance. The first of the proposals we make, and it's apposite in the context of the discussions at the United Nations even this week, is to make a call unequivocally for a standalone ocean sustainable development goal. In many ways, if we look at the MDGs, we can see issues that we knew were problems in the world. Once measures were put in place and performance was required, these things were brought into very sharp relief, and there has been very significant progress on the MDGs. Now they need to be taken forward in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals, and the ocean has to be one of the cases that merits a measurable set of indicators and regular reporting on. Well, the second is that we must deal with the issues of governance of the high seas so that we can deal with the elements of recovery. If you look at the report, you will see this wonderful organogram, a classic, Jan, of the complexity of the United Nations. Too many institutions, too many blurred lines, too many relationships in the institution that result in inadequate measurement, inadequate oversight. We need to raise the bar and drive a better governance equation. Our third proposal is a proposal against overfishing. And the one sure route is to make an unambiguous call to end the subsidies to fishing fleets on the high seas. The fourth proposal we're making relates to IUU fishing. And here there are a number of clear measures that we must call for. The first is, as with merchant fleets, that every fishing vessel has a clearly identifiable number, that it is compelled to carry a transponder that can't be turned off, and at any given point, anybody in the world should be able to go online and see who is fishing where. A second part of this proposal relates to the ban on high seas transshipment of fishing, because it's through that the nefarious activities are allowed to continue. And thirdly, we must insist that the port state measures be adopted by all states and implemented uniformly to prevent illegally caught fish being landed. The fifth issue is plastics pollution. It's estimated that by 2050, there'll be 33 billion tons of plastic in the sea. About a third of all plastics produced end up in the sea. And of the plastics that end up in the sea, about 30% of it floats, the rest sinks, it breaks up into microscopic particles and is there, whether this be ingested by the fish or available in the soil beneath or on the seabed. The sixth proposal we're making is a call for binding safety standards for oil and gas. Right now, the bulk of oil and gas exploration happens on the continental shelf, but increasingly, as technology advances, it is going to be a matter for the high seas. We know what happened at Horizon Deep. We must insist that the standards be adopted and rigorously implemented to ensure that we can deal with the problem, because we haven't quite resolved our thirst for oil and gas. The seventh proposal we make is to draw on what happened after the collapse of Lehman Brothers and the financial crisis of 2007, when a financial stability board was established. We need to establish, and this is a very strong call we're making, for an ocean accountability board located in the United Nations, made up at its peak of a representative, senior representative appointed by the Secretary General, but we need countries to be involved in this to ensure that we can drive the governance bargain quite differently. And the eighth, and perhaps the most exciting proposal we're making, is to look at the high seas as a no-take zone for fishing. Now, we're very generous in the way in which we go about it. We want the measures in place immediately so that we can measure the change, and if the changes are not effected, then we must all join a call for the high seas to be a no-take zone within a period of 5 years. This is bold. It doesn't follow the contours of UN clause. We know that. But if all we did was to merely reinforce what already exists, we wouldn't see the change that our generation and successive generations need. And so we would like to invite everybody to join in that call. We're setting the bar, we're setting the framework, but it needs a lot of support, not only from governments across the world, but also from ordinary people. The 8 proposals we put on the table, and we ask you to generously support them, not just to carry them into the General Assembly of the United Nations, but to join us to work assiduously to ensure that peoples across the world know of their responsibility and know, as Fua said, that we must act together now in the interest of the health of the ocean. Thank you very much.